Evening, everyone. On behalf of the Commissioners and staff, I would like to welcome you to the January 11, 2024 City of Roseville Planning Commission meeting. Please put all electronic devices on silent at this time. Agendas are available at the end of the staff table. If you plan to speak at tonight's meeting, please complete a blue speaker card and return it to a staff member. As a reminder, Planning Commission meetings are broadcast live and replayed throughout the week on Consolidated Communications and Comcast. I will now call the meeting to order. Lupe, may we please have a roll call?
Yes, Commissioner Brashears.
Here.
Commissioner Hagen-Joes.
Here.
Commissioner Jensen.
Here.
Commissioner Martin.
Here.
Commissioner Randolph.
Here.
Vice Chair Pryor.
Here.
Chair Covington is absent, excused.
Thank you, Lupe. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lupe, could you please begin staff introductions?
Good evening, Commissioners. Lupe Nelson, Recording Secretary.
Good evening, Commissioners. Joe Speaker, Assistant City Attorney. Good evening, Chair Pryor and Commissioners. Greg Bitter, Planning Manager.
Good evening, Chair Pryor and Commissioners. Derek Ogden, Senior Planner.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Eric Singer, Associate Planner.
And good evening, Commissioners. Matt Todd, Principal Engineer.
Thank you. The public comment period is a time for anyone who would like to address the Commission on any item not on tonight's agenda. When addressing the Commission, please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to address the Commission on any item not on tonight's agenda? Hearing none, I will close the public comment period. Next, we have the consent calendar. The consent calendar consists of routine items that may be approved under one motion as recommended in the staff reports. However, each item may be considered separately upon request by the audience, Planning Commission, or staff. Tonight's consent calendar consists of one item. That's item 5.1, minutes from the December 14, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. Is there anyone on the Commission or in the audience who would like to pull this item off the consent calendar for separate discussion? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as listed?
Chair, I'll make a motion to move.
Second.
Commissioner Randolph has made the motion and Commissioner Jensen has seconded the motion. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hagen-Joes.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Yes.
Commissioner Brashears.
Yes.
Commissioner Randolph.
Yes.
Commissioner Jensen.
Yes.
And Chair Pryor.
Yes. The motion is approved. Next, we have requests and presentations. Before we begin, I want to review the meeting procedures. First, we will hear the staff presentation. Then I will take questions from the Commission. I will then open the public hearing. The applicant will make a presentation. Then I will open the public comment, and the public will have an opportunity to speak. Then I will close public comment. If needed, the applicant will be given an opportunity to provide a rebuttal. Then I will close the public hearing. The Commission may ask questions of staff, and finally, the Commission will consider this item and make a decision based on the information provided in the report from staff and the testimony presented during tonight's hearing. Item 6.1 is a request to approve a major project permit Stage 2 and tree permit for 1101 Galleria Boulevard. For the record, file number PL23-0252. Eric, may we have your presentation, please?
Chair Pryor, before I let Eric jump on with his presentation, I just want to introduce him to the Planning Commission. Eric Singer has been with the city since this past August. We stole him from the city of Citrus Heights, where he worked for several years, has a lot of experience. We're very happy he's on board with us. And tonight's his first presentation before the Commission. So Derek and I are both hoping that you give him some good, hard questions at the end of his presentation. So with that, I will let you jump right into it.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you for that introduction, Greg. I appreciate it. Good evening again, Commissioners. My name is Eric Singer. I'll be presenting tonight the Fleming's Prime Steakhouse project. The project is located at 1101 Galleria Boulevard on an outparcel of the Roseville Galleria Mall. It's at the northwest corner of Roseville Parkway and Galleria Boulevard. The original outparcel was approved through the Major Project Permit, or MPP, process for the Galleria Mall in 1995. A subsequent design review permit modification was approved for a Pier 1 Imports in 2000. And as you can see in the image, the entire site has been developed. The applicant is proposing to remove the existing pad building and replace it with a new one. The current request in total is for an MPP Stage 2 to review the elevations and minor parking lot reconfiguration for the new building for the Fleming's Prime Steakhouse restaurant on the highlighted parcel there. The request also includes a tree permit for the removal of one protected oak tree. The applicant is proposing an 8,110 square foot pad building, highlighted there in blue, with associated landscaping and a slight reconfiguration to the existing parking lot. The parking lot will maintain its existing sole point of ingress and egress at the north end of the site, highlighted in green, onto an entry drive accessed via Galleria Boulevard. The reconfiguration of the parking lot includes relocation of spaces, including the introduction of additional spaces along the northwestern drive aisle. The rectangle is highlighted in red there. The creation of an additional island in the center of the parking lot, which is highlighted in yellow, and the relocation of the existing trash enclosure from the northwest drive aisle adjacent to the building to the southwest corner of the parking lot, and that's the square highlighted in orange. Now, based on the proposed square footage and the parking requirements outlined in the zoning ordinance of 1 space to 100 square feet of building area, the applicant is required to provide 81 parking spaces. They are providing 82. They're also proposing the removal of 6 total trees to accommodate the reconfiguration of the parking lot. Only one of those trees is considered protected under the tree preservation ordinance. The applicant has agreed to mitigate for its removal via a combination of replantings on site and payment of an in lieu fee. Looking at the design of the building itself, the design incorporates modern elements, including horizontal roof lines, asymmetrical rectangular forms, building materials such as metal fascia and trellises, IFAS wall panels, concrete masonry. Colors include shades of gray and bronze with black trim and accents. And 3 of the elevations include large window panels at varying heights and depths, providing additional visual interest. All of the colors and materials meet both the specific plan and community design guidelines, and that the architecture consists of a variety of colors and materials, provides a variation of wall planes, roof lines, and building form that are consistent with the overall architectural style and theme of the project. Additionally, the design is original and distinct from surrounding sites while remaining complementary with the commercial character of the area. On the public outreach front, early notification of the project was posted on the Arcona website. Additionally, a public hearing notice was mailed to a 300-foot radius, published in the Press Tribune and on the Arcona website. No comments were received in response to the notice. And on the environmental review side, the project is considered categorically exempt from CEQA per section 15332, class 32, exempts infill development projects that meet 5 specific criteria. As you no doubt read in the staff report, the project meets those criteria as described and is therefore considered exempt. So in conclusion, staff finds that the proposal is substantially consistent with the intent of the original approval, and the project complies with the zoning ordinance, the general plan, specific plan, and the community design guidelines. Therefore, staff recommends the Commission adopt the required findings of fact and approve the entitlements as listed. Thank you, and I am available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Eric. Commissioners, are there any questions for staff at this time? All right, seeing none, I will now open the public hearing. I would like to invite the project representative for this item to address the Commission. Would you please state your name?
Hello and good evening, Commissioners. My name is Terry Womack. I'm with Go-To Permitting, and I'm the applicant's representative, Fleming's Prime Steakhouse and Wine Bar. First off, I'd like to thank the planning department for working with us to get the project to the level that we're at today so we can be here today. We're really excited to be here, really excited to introduce the Fleming's brand to your community. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Fleming's brand, they're an upscale steakhouse, fine dining services. They offer prime steaks, seafood, lists of over 100 different wines to choose from. They really bring in the energy and sophistication that we look for when you go out to a really nice steakhouse. So if you have any questions for me, please let me know. We're here to help in any way.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, are there any questions for the project representative at this time? All right, thank you. You may be seated.
All right, thank you very much.
I will now open the public comment period. Is there anyone from the public who would like to come forward and address the commission on this item? All right, seeing none, I will now close the public comment period. Are there any additional questions or comment for the applicant from the commission? I would like to make a comment if that's possible. I would like to commend you on the design of the project. I think that the actual building is very tasteful, especially the fenestration, the windows. It's almost like a piano board. The windows come down. So I'm very impressed by the project. So I wish you the best of luck with your project.
I do have a question for
Yes.
Mr. Singer. How do you like your steak?
Medium rare, the only way to order it.
Oh, the only
I
way.
just thought you should
Only
get
way.
a
Good
I
man.
thought you should get a question.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you. All right, I will now close the public hearing. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Chair, I'll make a motion. Motion that we adopt the two findings of fact and approve the major project permit Stage 2, subject to the 73 conditions of approval, and adopt the two findings of fact and approve the tree permit subject to the 20 conditions of approval. This is for the Fleming Steakhouse, for the record, PL 23-0252.
I'll second that motion.
All right, Commissioner Randolph has made the motion and Commissioner Martin has seconded the motion. Roll call, please.
Yes. Commissioner Jensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Randolph?
Yes.
Commissioner Hagan-Joes?
Yes.
Commissioner Brashears?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
And Chair Pryor.
Yes. The motion is approved. There is a 10-day appeal period for this item. Next, we have item 6.2. It's a request to approve a major project permit Stage 2 for 350 Conference Center Drive. For the record, file number PL 23-0138. Sean, may we have your presentation, please?
Sorry. Yes, you may. Good evening, Vice Chair Pryor, Commissioners. My name is Sean Morales. I'm an associate planner, and I'm here tonight to present to you the Roseville Junction Beer Garden project. Once it pops up here. The project site is located at 350 Conference Center Drive within the Roseville Junction development adjacent to Highway 65. Roseville Junction was approved by the Commission through the Major Project Permit, or MPP, process in 2021. And MPP Stage 1 approved the building footprints and design guidelines for the center. In September of 2023, an MPP Stage 2 was approved for the electric pickle in the northwest corner of the site. And in December of 2023, an MPP Stage 1 modification and MPP Stage 2 was approved for the two hotels in the southern portion of the site. And so the current request is for a subsequent MPP Stage 2 to review the elevations for the Roseville Junction Beer Garden, which will consist of multiple tenants and approximately 3,360 square feet of repurposed metal container buildings. The proposal adheres to the approved site plan, parking allocation, and landscape plan from the MPP Stage 1, featuring the modified shipping containers on the exterior of the parcel and a covered dining area in the center, with parking to the north and west, a drive aisle to the east, and the project entry to the south. Because the project is consistent with the most recent MPP Stage 1 modification, only an MPP Stage 2 review is required for this project. Roseville Junction was approved with a limited colors and materials palette shown below as a starting point, knowing that future uses would require additional colors and materials while adhering to the overall modern industrial design theme. The guidelines also anticipated shipping containers specifically as an allowed building material in the development, as shown in the detail from the guidelines on the bottom right. The proposal includes containers with adhered wood cladding and the metal structure visible as a center accent panel. The accent panel will include painted graphics, which are to be determined, and a condition of approval was added to the project to require that any graphics receive planning manager approval before application. Consistent with the city's community design guidelines, the project adheres to the modern industrial theme of the Roseville Junction development while also proposing unique and original architecture. Early notification of the project was posted on the Arcona website, and the public hearing notice was mailed to a radius of 300 feet, published in the Press Tribune and on the Arcona website as well, and no comments were received in response to the notice. An addendum to the Roseville Hotel and Conference Center project EIR was prepared with the MPP Stage 1, and the beer garden is consistent with that previously approved addendum. So in conclusion, staff finds that the project is consistent with all applicable goals, policies, and standards of the general plan, specific plan, community design guidelines, and the Stage 1 approval. Therefore, staff recommends the commission adopt the required findings of fact and approve the project as listed, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Sean. Commissioners, are there any questions for staff at this time? I have one question, Sean, if it's possible. The graphics area on that wall, can that be used for advertising purposes of any way, or is it just as purely aesthetic art?
If it was used for advertising, we would count that as signage, so it would go into the overall square footage for their signage, which is not how they're planning to use it. There is a sign program approved for this development, so they're planning to have the signage at the top of the buildings. And I think the graphics will just be additional aesthetic graphics.
Thank you. All right, I will now open the public hearing. I would like to invite the project representative for this item to address the commission.
Good evening. My name is Scott Pedersen, and I'm here representing Greg Bardini, who is not with us today. We think we're looking forward to, well, first off, let me say thank you and appreciate the opportunity to come and speak before you on this project. We've been working the project area, and we think this is an excellent use for the space in there, and we've appreciated working with staff, getting this project to move forward, and we look forward to answering any questions you have.
All right.
Thank you.
Commissioners, are there any questions for the project applicant at this time? I will now close the public hearing. Would anyone, oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. I will now close the public comment period. Are there any, am I at the right spot?
I think there's a slip up. There should be the opening now of the public comment period.
Okay, I will now open the public comment period. Is there anyone from the audience?
Good evening, Chair Pryor and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Derek Pell. I'm on the Transportation Commission for the city, but I'm here for myself. I'm excited about this. Looks really cool. Sure, I'll spend a bunch of time there. Field work, great brewing, great beer. Really excited to have a business of this caliber and in Roseville. Really excited about that. I guess I just come to you with two comments that are more, well, one is more philosophical, but I think the first is, I really like the design. I had emailed with staff about one comment regarding just plantings, and there's lots of drought-tolerant plants, and it's great. And it'd be cool to see the city move towards, preferring more California native plants. I know it's preferred around open space areas, but it's a great landscaping tool, and it's great for the environment, for resiliency. And I think they look pretty nice too. And then the second is, I think this is a fairly good location for a beer garden. It's next to the hotels. Hopefully people can walk through the parking lot without too many problems. But I guess philosophically, it's a beer garden. People are going to drink, and it's in a really kind of auto-centric development. And so how can we, as a city, think about developing really cool, exciting amenities like this in areas where maybe there's a larger group of people who live right next to it who can walk and not have to drive and get in a car. Areas that are, transit rich and close to a density of people who might use it and be interested in it. So that's really it. I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to it. But just how do we continue to push not necessarily auto-centric development forever. So, thank you very much. I'll fill one of these up.
Thank you very much. I will now close the public comment period. Any additional questions for the applicant from the commission?
I have just a general, this is going to be Roseville's first beer garden in Roseville. The nearest one would be Sacramento, I believe, right? I know Rockland's trying to have some go forward, but was there any, and I think it was the last meeting that there was a change of parking requirements in the hotel, and this one has a 44 parking lot. Speaking of the auto-eccentric, this is in a deep court. I would think that most people going there to drink would be doing an Uber or something of that nature, so it kind of lends itself to that type of a feel for a drop-off, go in, have some beers, and then get a ride home. And then there'd be families who'd be eating pizzas and stuff like that as well, and it serves, the community, which is the two hotels and adjacent apartments within walking distance. I think it's going to be an exciting venture for Roseville to have this addition. We're getting hip, like downtown, I guess you could say, right? So it should be an interesting item to have in the area. Hopefully it'll turn out well.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Martin. I will now, is there any other comments or? No, we're good. All right, I will now close the public hearing. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission adopt the two findings of fact and approve the MPP Stage 2 subject to 73 conditions of approval. For the record, file number PL 21-0153.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Brashears has made the motion and Commissioner Jensen has seconded the motion. Roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Brashears?
Yes.
Commissioner Jensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Hagan-Jost?
Yes.
Commissioner Randolph?
Yes.
And Chair Pryor.
Yes. The motion is approved. There is a 10-day appeal period for this item. Next, we have item 6.3, and it's a request for a flood encroachment permit for 648 Riverside Avenue. For the record, file number PL 0197. Oh, sorry. File number PL 230197. Shelby, may we have your presentation, please?
Good evening, Chair Pryor and Commissioners. My name is Shelby Maples, Associate Planner, and I have a presentation for you on the Oak Creek BMX Flood Encroachment Permit. The project is located at 648 Riverside Avenue in the infill area of the city between Riverside and Vernon Streets in the floodway and floodway fringe zones. The site is mostly undeveloped, with Dry Creek running along the southern border and primarily populated by oak trees. The existing BMX recreation facility is located on the east side of the property, mostly shown there in yellow, adjacent to Riverside, and includes the track, gravel parking area, starter shack, and other temporary structures. For a little bit of project background, a BMX track has been located at this site since at least 1985 and was at that time considered a permitted use. With some incremental additions, the city approached the operator and required them to apply for entitlements. So in 1992, the city council approved a special use permit, special exception use permit, and tree permit for the BMX operation, which included dry season storage from April to October. And those were the entitlements that were in place at the time. In 2000, there was a caretaker's trailer that was added to the site for dry season. And in 2001, there was an application to extend the storage of these structures during the wet season from October to April. This project was additionally approved, but later appealed to City Council due to concerns from the neighbors and with potential flood hazard issue concerns. City Council ultimately upheld that appeal and denied the wet season storage at that time. The proposed project is for a flood encroachment permit, which is the appropriate entitlement under the current zoning code. So the purpose of this flood encroachment permit would describe the current operation of the facility and memorialize the operation with the current equipment, temporary structures, the major races, and the items proposed by the applicant. The list of structures is included here on the slide and in the staff report. It includes the storage containers, mobile trailers, bleachers, and other temporary structures. Also, as part of the project, The project would propose a sign along Riverside Avenue that's approximately 9.5 feet tall and advertise Oak Creek BMX, and the project also proposes wet season storage. So to evaluate the flood encroachment permit, the analysis relied on the development standards and criteria for development approval outlined in the floodway and floodway fringe zone districts. The structures are all temporary in nature and consistent with the recreational use. It's been evaluated by city departments, including Public Works floodplain, for consistency with the standards. And with improvements to the site and within the floodplain, staff was comfortable allowing the storage of the temporary structures on site through the rainy season. Additionally, the analysis found that there were no conflicts with those development approval criteria, and as proposed and conditioned, the project would not result in increased exposure of life or property to flood-related hazards. The project does have operational conditions to ensure that any risks will be minimal, so changes to the site plan or future improvements to the site will require modification of the flood encroachment permit. The conditions also require annual inspection with Public Works staff and to check the anchors and other features and maintain regular contact. And the operator may also be required to remove equipment from the site within 24 hours of potential flood danger. Early notification of the project was published on the Arcona website, and the public hearing notice was mailed out to a 300-foot radius, published in the Press Tribune, and posted on the Arcona website. Staff did not receive any responses to the public hearing notice. I'd also note that there was a project notification mailed out to the 300-foot radius in October of 2023 to let them know about the proposed project. Staff did receive 3 calls. 2 were for about clarification of the project, and 1 neighbor did comment on noise from the operation, including from the amplified sound systems, as well as concerns with homeless encampments on the site. To address the noise, there is an operational condition that details the noise level limitations and hours that are consistent with the noise ordinance. Additionally, the project was found to be categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to Section 15301 for existing facilities. The project is an existing use and meets the criteria for the exemption class, and none of the exceptions apply. In conclusion, the project is consistent with the general plan and floodway fringe and floodway zone districts, and approval of the project can make the findings for the floodway encroachment permit. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the findings of fact and approve the flood encroachment permit subject to the conditions of approval. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Shelby. Commissioners, are there any questions for staff at this time?
I have a quick question. When it was appealed to the council back in 91, because it looks like it's adding facilities that were upheld by the council back then, what was their basis for denial?
I think my understanding is that it was primarily due to the concerns about flooding and the potential to create more impacts on the downstream, properties. And, I think since that time, the city has done significant improvements along Kirby, Linda, and Dry Creek, as most of the commission's probably aware. And I think a lot of some of those concerns have been mitigated through those improvements that the city has done over time. And so we did have the floodplain, manager review the request, and they felt comfortable with having that condition that if there were to be a flood, potential flood, that they could remove that equipment that would potentially, float downstream or whatnot.
So the structures that are being put in place, they seem very permanent in the description of it, that they be anchored and waterproofed and all of that. They would be able to be removed under this?
Yes, some of the structures would be anchored like bleachers and things like that, but there's others that, such as the office trailer, could be moved off of the site, with proper notice to the operator. And so, that was the condition that the Public Works requested.
Okay, and then one last question. The floodplain manager, did he take a look at any backwater effects or anything from having those structures, bleachers or something with debris that could block the flow of water? And was there any kind of analysis that was done to look at that?
Yeah, I think, where the track is located, there's a very minimal inundation in that area, and the water is not really flowing that quickly in that area. So I think they were comfortable with where the structures were located on the property, and just given kind of the history of the site and where the major path of floodwaters are, this is kind of a real shallow backwater area, and so there wasn't really a concern with having, structures
Okay,
float away.
one last question.
Sure.
Which structures then are set to be able to be moved and which ones aren't? Because it sounded like you said that the bleachers aren't going to be able to be moved, but the trailer would. Are there other ones that?
I think the major concern is, in a flood event would be the trailer and some of the Connex structures and things like that. So those items can be removed, and that was the major concern from the floodplain manager.
Okay, thank you.
I actually have a question as well. Is the sign a permanent structure, or is that removable also, the 9-foot monument sign?
My understanding is that the sign is permanent.
Yeah, it is a permanent structure, and it was designed to kind of be in line with the floodwater so that it won't block or impede, things that are floating downstream.
My other question is, one of the neighbors had comments about the noise levels, and that was addressed. They also had comments about encampments on the site. Was that addressed, or?
We did address the noise comment with the condition of approval.
And I can comment on the encampment piece. So that particular site, the owner has been working with the city for some time now, and we actually have what we call a private property cleanup agreement in place with that, where the private property owner supports and has been cooperative with the city with regard to the encampment cleanups. And so that area has gotten significantly better as a result of that cooperation and collaboration. So that site is an ongoing site for just the city with regarding to monitoring the homeless encampment. So that's something that's fairly recent with regard to that cleanup effort. So I think, while not part of a condition for this project or directly with this project, that site has been a target area for the city for that exact purpose. So that has, like I said, been an ongoing effort to mitigate that.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Just have a question in terms of the nearest homes from this site are roughly how far away?
I'm not sure of the exact distance. I will say that I sent out 372 mailing notices. So there is quite a number of homes within the radius.
Yeah, the homes to the north are fairly close. I would say, probably 250 feet.
The reason I'm asking is, in the event of a major flood type event, where would debris flow? Would it be flowing towards the homes?
So really, it would have to be a very major event to get up. It doesn't, the waters don't typically, even in a flood event, get that high. There's a significant grade difference between where the track is and the homes to the north. And actually, the homes to the south on the other side of the creek are much higher.
Mm-hmm.
So to my knowledge, those areas do not flood.
Okay.
Where the track is in itself, I think what I've heard, and I don't know if Matt knows any more than I do, but I've heard that the area around the track only has a couple inches of water in it in a major flood event. So it's kind of a backwater area. So water really doesn't get up anywhere close to the homes in that area.
Because that's really the concern is, in the event of a flood, are the home's going to be protected? I know there's a 24-hour notice to get people to, get the unsecured stuff out of there that could or could not be complied with. And so in the event that it's not, somebody drops the ball or whatever, what's the danger to the homes that are around? And
Yeah.
I'm hearing you say
Very minimal.
very minimal. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Hagenjus. Any other questions from the Commissioner? All right. I will now open the public hearing. I would like to invite the project representative for this item to address the Commission.
Hey guys, I'm Nathan Johansson. I'm one of the track operators at Oak Creek BMX. Lived in Roseville since 2000, so 23 years. Raised my family here. Myself and my partner Amanda took the track over in the summer of 2019 from the previous owners who, worked with Bobby since the mid-'80s. The track's been there that long. Since that time, we've made the track. It's the #1 track in the region, the #1 track in the state, and the #1 track in the country for the last 3 years. We've hosted the Northern California State Finals here since we've been tenured as the track operators. We're going to be hosting the Northern California State Finals at Oak Creek BMX in Roseville I believe it's going to be late August, early September. I haven't quite set the date yet. We also have a national event coming. We work a lot with Placer Valley Tourism to bring these national events. The last one we had was in 2018 before we had taken over. This will be the first national event that we're going to be doing in May. That'll be a 3-day deal. That'll bring thousands of people in from all over the United States, mostly from the Western United States. Track's very popular. On any given race night, it doesn't have to be a national event. It does not have to be a state qualifier. We have riders coming from as far down as the Bay Area, Napa area, and as far away as Reno and Nevada. So we're hosting races to hundreds of people on a weekly basis. It's kids on bikes, basically, is what we're doing there. That's pretty much it. You guys have any questions for me or need clarification on any of those points?
Commissioners, are there any questions for the project representative at this time?
Sweet. I will say, as far as the flooding is concerned, at least in my experience, especially when we had all these rains last year, the back side of the property floods before the front side of the property is. So the stuff back by the railroad tracks is what fills up with water. We hadn't seen any flooding issues at all in the last 3 years, and we had some pretty significant rain last year about this time, and we're seeing the same thing again this year.
All right, thank you very much. You may be seated. I will now open the public comment period. Is there anyone from the public who would like to come forward and address the commission on this item? All right, seeing none, I will not, I beg your pardon. Go ahead.
I'm Bob Kolak. I'm the owner of the property, or the trustee of the property. The comment regarding the water on the back of the property is water from the Windsor subdivision drainage. It doesn't come from the creek. And whenever we have a lot of rain, the pipes empty onto our property for about a week or 2 weeks, sometimes a little longer, but most of the time less than a week. And it looks like it's flooded from the creek, but it isn't. The creek hasn't overflown since, I guess, 90s, and I guess once in the 80s. And I don't think it will in the future because we have a brand-new trestle that was built by Union Pacific that replaced the Southern Pacific trestle that dammed the creek and caused the flooding prior to this. That's all I'd like to say. So the water that we're talking about on the backside of the property is drainage water from the Windsor subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now close the public comment period. Any additional questions or comments for the applicant from the commission? All right, I will now close the public hearing. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Can I ask one more clarified question? Only because I have concerns with the line of bleachers that are kind of perpendicular to the flow of the water. How high are those bleachers? How many rows of seating?
4 or 5.
Yeah, 4 or 5
Yep, they're small.
Nothing higher than that.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of them are aluminum and some of them are aluminum with.
And again, those are set in place and are not intended to be moved during.
Correct. I think they're anchored down, correct?
They're actually not anchored down.
Okay.
But they anchor them down. The other thing I would suggest, I don't think it would make much of a difference.
Nathan?
Could you please come to the podium? Thank you.
Yeah, we could anchor them down if that's what we needed to do to make everybody feel better about it. The other thing I was thinking, although I don't think it would make much of a difference, they're about as wide as they are long, so I thought we could potentially move them this way or that if we were concerned about a potential flood issue. But again, they're...
Well, I know we've kind of opened up the public hearing again. If it's okay with the attorney, if I can ask some more clarifying questions.
Yeah, I mean, we're still in that portion of the end. You're free to ask that, especially with the new the new information.
Okay, so if they're not anchored down, is there a reason why they couldn't just be put out when the events happened?
So if I may interject, the condition number 7 does specify that any unanchored equipment, if the city requests it, must be removed from the site if they request in the 24-hour window. So that would include the bleachers if they're not anchored down.
Okay, thank you.
So that poses a question for me, which is, are you comfortable with the 24-hour notice to get everything moved if it needs to be moved?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would be a little bit concerned if it was, New Year's Eve, right? Or Christmas Day or something like that, because you got to get somebody to come out and move it, right? For the office trailer, somebody's got to come out with a big rig truck and hitch to it and pull it out. So that would be my only concern, is if it was a holiday, but other than that, no. Yeah. I mean, I do have a question about the bleachers. If we did anchor them to the ground, is that better? Because it would be less of a pain, honestly, to move the bleachers.
The way the conditions read is anchoring or not anchoring, it's all to the satisfaction of the Department of Public Works. So it's our floodplain management folks that are going to work with the operators. If the Planning Commission approves this flood encroachment permit, the operators will be required to work with our Public Works staff to make sure that, whatever's anchored is anchored appropriately. They'll go out and inspect that to make sure it's anchored appropriately. And if it's not anchored, then that will be on the list of items that they'd need to be ready to move on a 24-hour notice. So it's kind of our Public Works department, especially the floodplain guys. And I know in the past, the previous operator, they had, it was more than once a year. I know there's language in here about meeting once a year in the conditions of approval or having contact. But especially during the rainy season in these areas, I know our Public Works staff is very communicative with folks in the city as they're monitoring storms, et cetera. So I think if we were worried that there was going to be a storm that was going to flood this property, they'd probably get more than 24 hours notice, is all likelihood. But I think the floodplain management staff, that 24-hour notice was the minimum amount of time they were comfortable with providing.
Yeah, and one of the things that my partner and I wanted to do, and I'm more or less the representative when it comes to dealing with the city, is one of the things I wanted to do is have a good, solid rapport with the city and open lines of communication, and I've established that with Derek. I mean, Derek and I, now Shelby, we communicate on a regular basis. We've been communicating on a regular basis the last 3-4 months through this whole flood encroachment permit process. I don't think I got any phone calls when we had last year's rain, but I'll tell you what, I was watching it very carefully because I wasn't sure what to expect. It's the first time we had a significant rain since we had taken over the track, and it fared well. I mean, we had hardly any water on the track itself. The parking lot and the rest of the surrounding area where the track is actually located suffered essentially no ill consequences as a result of all those rains. So I felt pretty good about my chances of running this thing for another, I have my tenure another 6 to 7 years. I think we're going to be okay, but more than happy to do whatever we need to do to keep operating and to keep it safe. And my understanding as part of this flood encroachment permit is you guys are going to come out and inspect the property once a year. So if we're not adhering to that, that'll be the opportunity to make sure that we're doing what we need to do, and we'll do it. And it's really that simple.
The conditions state that prior to October 1st, the applicant needs to contact the city and work on scheduling that inspection.
All right, thank you. Any final comments from any commissioners?
I'll just make a comment. I'll be open and honest. I'm a little concerned with the bleachers being there and the 24-hour time frame. I'd be more comfortable if in the winter season that they were put out for events and taken down when there weren't events, because quite honestly, when we've had flood events, they've happened on New Year's Eve. That's when we've had the floods, and they do come quickly, and we can get significant rain in a very short period of time, and sometimes you don't think you're going to flood, and then you have a thunderstorm that decides to sit over the city. So I have concerns with the bleachers being permitted year-round, even if you have the 24-hour notice to take those down, just based on the location of where they're at and the direction of flow.
All right, thank you. You may be seated. Thank you very much. I will now fully close the public hearing. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission adopt the 2 findings of fact and approve the flood encroachment permit subject to 8 conditions of approval.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Brashears has made the motion and Commissioner Hagenjos has seconded the motion. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Randolph?
Yes.
Commissioner Jensen?
No.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Brashears?
Yes.
Commissioner Hagan-Joes,
Yes.
and Chair Pryor.
Yes. The motion is approved. There is a 10-day appeal period for this item. Next on the agenda is Commissioner and Staff report. Are there any reports from staff?
I do have a couple things to mention tonight. We will not be having a meeting on the 25th of January, but we do have a couple items coming on February 8th. So we'll give you the second meeting of this month off. And then something of note, a project that you took action on just a little under a year ago, Shea Properties. If you recall, we amended the land use for Shea Properties and approved a development agreement. This is that property adjacent to the Shea Center on Gibson Drive. It's just very close to the beer garden. It was an implementation measure from the housing element update where we were looking at land to rezone for the potential for affordable housing. And the development agreement provided two options. One, for the applicant to go out and look to secure state bond financing to help with a 100% affordable project. Or if they couldn't do that over the course of a couple-year period, it would allow them to build a 20% affordable, 80% market rate project. So I just want to let you know that in December, the California Debt Limit Allocation Committee awarded Shea a little over $75 million in bond allocation. They got the highest award in the state of California during the December allocation. And so they're full steam ahead to do, they're going to have 4 managers units and 352 352 affordable units.
Great.
So that's going to help put a big dent in that regional housing needs assessment deficit. So I just wanted to let you know, I know that was a strategy that you acted on in the housing element and the council approved, and that was a project to implement it. And it looks like we're gonna win one for once.
Great. That's great.
On that topic.
Yeah.
So that's all I have for tonight. Some good news.
All right. Are there any questions or comments from the commissioners? All right. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Move we adjourn?
Second.
Commissioner Jensen has made the motion and Commissioner Randolph has seconded. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.